Welcome back to Frontside Press with Jeff and Mike
Yay!
and Julie.
Julie's above you.
And tonight, Mr. Martin Hyde.
All right.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Okay. So give him the rundown, Jeff. Like a chair, comment. Go over
Yes.
to music at MGL, get him up to over 1,000. Give it to him.
Yeah, this is where we give all our plugs and try and delay time for our 12 viewers to log in and start watching us live. So, yes, welcome to Frontside Press with Mike and Jeff every Thursday, 8-ish, as always, hashtag 8-ish. You can find us at Facebook Frontside Press page, or you can log in on my YouTube channel, which is Musings with MGL. And I also put other stuff on there. I put in videos updating people on gun laws, gun rights. I have educational videos about legal stuff when it comes to Florida. So please like and share and subscribe to both the Facebook page for Frontside Press and the Musings of MGL. I am slowly, as always, approaching the 1,000 mark. I actually picked up a few extra subscribers this week, so I might be at like 990 or something like that. So I'm this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers. Not a big deal. So as always, like, share, and subscribe. Well, our guest tonight is the wonderful Martin Hyde. A lot of people probably know him. He's kind of a local political celebrity around here who also has a YouTube channel that gets millions of views. So maybe he needs to pimp our channels and stuff on his and get some of his fans to come over and subscribe and get our numbers up. So yes, welcome, Martin Hyde. It's good to see you.
Yeah, no great secret to that. Just act like an ass and people watch it. It's
well, I don't know why I'm an ass and it hasn't worked for me so far.
Maybe it's the British accent. Maybe it's the sense of entire. But it's a little bit of a mystery. What gets people going? What excites people? And sometimes it's just someone that they love to hate. In fact, the last kind of live thing I did was with Tucker Carlson, and that was quite a thing because obviously that was national television, and for a moment there I was nervous, but it's the same thing. You're just talking into a screen, and it doesn't matter how many other people it's going to. It'd be all the same if it was 1 or 10 million. But if we could figure out the metrics of it, we'd be rich men, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get as many views as Tucker Carlson. That's for sure.
Well, I talk to a certain set there. I like Tucker. I mean, I think he's he talks a lot of sense, and he also is very much on the anti-establishment side of the Republican Party, which appeals to me because I'm not a big fan of Mitch McConnell et al.
All right. So before we get into all that, as always, Mike, if you got a nice toast for us tonight. Everybody's got their libations. Yep. Everybody's got their drinks. Anything exciting going on in the McGowan world as an intro before we get started? Or we want to just start drinking.
Yep. No, let's do the toast and I'll give it to you. So the
all
toast,
right,
we start drinking.
Everybody's got their drinks.
Take everything in moderation, including moderation.
I don't get it.
So before we go on, I have put my notice in at Take Aim. I'm leaving Take Aim. I am now involved.
Oh.
It's a rough crowd.
Yeah, it's a wrong button.
We got have sold part of Veritas to Cosente out of Bogota, Colombia, and we are building a indoor training facility in Palmetto. So that's what will be coming up in the very near future.
Yeah, hands up to that for sure. Claps. That's awesome.
So there'll be more as that starts to pan out, and what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it. but it's going to be pretty big. I'm very excited about this, and like I said, as everything starts to come about, I'll let you in more on the details of what we're doing, how we're doing it, where we're doing it, and stuff like that. So
Cool.
no more lessons,
Well,
concealed weapons classes at Take Aim, and I got like 1 more week left.
right. You're still going to do them. You're just going to do them at the new place?
Oh, I'm still going to be teaching. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Because one thing we know about Mike, he's all about training.
we're going to be training. That's right.
Yep. That's your
Doing some major training.
number one thing for gun owners is train, train, train. If you want to be a gun owner, be responsible. Get your training.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get some more details later on. We just want to let everybody know that there's some big things going on in the future of Veritas, and we're going to have some new training facilities. We're going to do some classes. We're going to do some legal seminars. I think things are going to be really good. Maybe we'll set up a little studio in there and do some of our shows from there. So just stay tuned, everybody. Big plans, big local plans here. Martin will get you in for some training. I know you British people don't have a lot of firearm training, so we should probably get you in for some.
We're used to something flag that comes out and says bang, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, you introduced me to that. Lee introduced me that a little bit. The whole community. I've had a blast. Literally. I know when I went down to the Hollow and shot that 50 caliber thing, semi-automatic 50 caliber thing. I mean that was just awesome. I mean the feeling that it gave. I've been out to a couple of these tactical ranges. I'm interested to see what this in Palmetto is indoors, right?
Yep.
It sounds cool. Live targets, presumably being in Palmetto.
Yeah, well, that's why. Because if we're outdoors, they get away, but indoors, they're kind of trapped. So we got them.
Yeah.
No,
In Palmetto, you can hide and duck and cover on your way there, and when you get there, so it'd be great.
I was gonna in real time. I think it's I don't know that there's any limit to the potential for that, and to make it. I mean, as you rightly say, I mean, safety is the key here, but it can be fun too. And I don't know whether people necessarily always realize that. I mean, it really can be fun.
Right.
Yeah, we were I was doing a lesson today and talking to a lady, and she was like, she's worried about the way the country's going, so she wants to get in there. She wants to do some training, and then she just realized that, how much fun she's actually having while we're training and stuff like that. And then what else can I do? I go, well, we got a shooting team. You can get on the shooting team. You come do competition with us. We do outdoor classes. We do this. We do that. And she was like, oh. So, it is a lot of fun.
I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to see that new Netflix series that came out yesterday. I think Wednesday, the Waco thing. And, that and Ruby Ridge, a couple of the most egregious examples of overplay by the ATF, in my opinion. Could have just let those people get on with it. I don't know what harm they were really planning to do. It's just, preparing for the Armageddon that they anticipated, but the federal government were the ones that brought it. So in a sense, I mean, they were right. But when you watch that series and you remember back there, obviously it's 30 years ago, people should never forget. People should never forget. That was our own government. That was a terrible thing.
Yeah, I agree. So no, that'll be fun. Yeah, I think I was with you when you bought your first gun that day. So that was a proud moment.
Somebody gave me as a gift when I was semi-popular a pump action 12 gauge, and that thing is, I mean, obviously it's lethal, but beyond that, it's just the noise of it, the sound of it, the feel of it is tremendous. I bought an AR-15. I think when I was with you, I also bought a 9mm subsequently, a Sig Sauer. Maybe that was what I bought when I was with you. I don't recall.
Yeah, you bought the Sig. Yep.
I did, but then
you won. Didn't you win a gun at one of our things? I thought. Yeah.
And that's what I traded for the 9mm, and I paid the difference.
Right.
And then the AR that I bought, if it wasn't for my failing eyesight with the night scope and stuff like that, that looks like a fun thing. Because my oldest son is a sheriff and is on the bomb disposal squad in Sarasota. So, yeah, he's a big gun enthusiast too, and he always tries to talk me through the finer points. But as you rightly say, I mean, guns have been outlawed in Britain for over 30 years, essentially. So most British people have never held a gun, let alone fired one.
Watched a little clip of a lady talking about
magazine.
She was talking about something about the energy, like the energy companies coming into houses, like.
Oh, for the stoves?
No,
Yeah,
it was.
stoves.
You mean
It was
in
over there.
Britain?
Yeah. And she was like, they just come into your house, like they come in, they break in, whatever.
Well, the Magna Carta obviously goes back a long time, but as common law, we don't have a strict Bill of Rights or a constitution, and the Fourth Amendment and so forth that we take for granted here doesn't exist in Britain. And I talk to people in Britain all the time. I was just talking to a friend of mine in Australia, and it's quite extraordinary how far their civil rights have been eroded. You think of Australia as sort of Crocodile Dundee and sort of the land of mateship and sort of where men are men, and it just isn't. They got speed cameras everywhere. They got rules for everything. And if you remember during COVID, they were locked down, notwithstanding there were thousands of miles of ocean between them and anyone else, forever. And it's remarkable to me how over really just the course of one generation, people have given up virtually every right that they have. And when you look at the intrusion there in people's homes with regard to energy, energy bills in Britain are at levels that create actual poverty these days. Notwithstanding the inflation issues, genuine problems. When it's air conditioning is arguably something of a luxury, although a necessity in Florida. But heating in Britain, although it's not exactly Arctic, you need it, and it's a real mess. Although I am old enough to remember when. In the early 1970s, we had a mandatory 3-day week because the government cut the power off because the coal miners were on strike. So I grew up at quite seriously. I mean, power cuts every day, and candles, was the only way around. And these were for several hours a day. And the 3-day week was mandatory. Businesses were only allowed to be open for 3 days a week, and that went on for about 4 or 5 months. I remember the Prime Minister, Ted Heath, at the time said to the nation, we're going to decide whether the miners run the country or the government does. It turned out the miners.
I was going to say, I can answer that question.
Yeah.
That's easy.
It's a classic line, though. It's funny.
So
she was saying
ahead,
that,
Mike.
here, she's like, with the Second Amendment, she's like, the energy company would not break into your house and just come in because Americans would shoot them.
That's an often simplified thing. It's funny. The street that I live on is called Shotgun Drive, and all my British acquaintances are like, "How could you live on a street called Shotgun?" I said, "Well, it makes sense to me. It's good advertising, and I electric gate here at the end of the property, and occasionally people manage to talk their way through that and turn up, and I always laugh. I said, you understand the street now is what it is. And then the sort of cold stare, and it's the quickest way to get rid of anybody, trust me.
Yeah.
That's great. Carrie, can you make the comments black, because white on white is hard to read? Is there any way you can change that font? Yes, I can't read the comments. Can you change the font to black? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, apparently they're white on white, so she can't read what they say.
Yeah, they are white on white today.
Kind of on that note, so you're talking about, Britain hasn't had guns in 30 years, and we saw the rights that they kind of gave away. Australia is completely gone off the deep end when it comes to rights away. When you look at everything that's going on in our country today, and I know you ran for office a couple different times because you're kind of passionate about it, do you see or do you have fear that that kind of stuff is happening over here, that the rights are eroding and the government's just getting bigger and people are just getting more subservient? Do you see America kind of going down that same path?
Yeah, I do. And I used that slogan during my last failed campaign: cancel, cancel culture. And it was meant to be ironic and it fitted on a t-shirt, okay. But the real point was that it is that this pernicious, because of the way you talked about views on YouTube. That's how every metric works these days, and now it's not about populism, with the degree of emphasis that's been put through education for 50 years, 60 years, with the what's happening with social media companies. And it's a war of attrition because now people are resigned to the fact, well, you can't say that, you can't say this, you can't say that, and people use that term. It's a slippery slope a lot, but it really is. And I look at people now, and because I really haven't learned my lesson, I still say whatever it is that pops into my head, and people say to me and look at me and shake their head and say, well, this is why people hate you, and you can't say that. And I said, well, assume it doesn't matter to me. It should matter to you that you have freedom. This whole country was based on a place to come where people would let you get on with your own business. The original idea was obviously about religious persecution, and then obviously subsequently being treated badly by a foreign power. And independence was hard won, and yet here we are, and it's accelerated since FDR brought in social medicine and social security, which arguably created a dependency. And now over the last 25 years that I've been here, I've seen things that I thought I'd never see in America. People actually buying into the participation trophy culture. People saying that it's nice to be nice, and it's so important to give everybody a hug, and nobody's ever wrong about anything. And I just don't think that's true. I just don't think that's a representation of the country that I fell in love with from a distance. And when I came here, I still believed in Jesse James and the Wild West, and we're not careful, we're going to be the wild woke, and I don't know where it goes. I mean, I'm 57. I guess it doesn't really matter. I can live out here and be a conservative freak. But I do concern myself with the next generation and the limitations on their freedom, and whether it's this continual attempt to change the Constitution on Second Amendment, pushing back on and everything, and the politicization of our legal system. You're an attorney, Jeff. I mean, look what they're trying to do there in New York with Trump. Tell me how that makes any sense. That's an important enough crime to spend millions of dollars on. Doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, Mike,
Okay.
what's your opinion on this Trump getting arrested in New York thing? Are you for it or are you
First
against
of all, they're just a bunch of treasonous bitches.
There it is. I knew it was coming. And what in the state of Florida is the punishment for treason?
Death. Treason is a forcible felony in the state of Florida.
It's a true story.
Not only is this where woke comes to die, but it's also where treasonous bitches come to die. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, Martin, I didn't know if you know that, but there's a list of felonies in Florida called forcible felonies where you can use deadly force against them, and treason is number one on the list. It's
number
above
one.
Robbery, rape, arson. It's number one on the list of forcible felonies where you can use deadly force is treason. So Mike likes to point that out on a regular basis.
Sounds like hunting.
If you're one of those people that is a crybaby wannabe, whatever they're trying to be, and you come to Florida, the last thing you want to hear is, y'all are treasonous bitches. Because that's going to be followed up probably by some loud noises.
I've always
How many you got watching?
We've got Lisa and Al. We have our Rocket Man is watching.
Pablo!
Pickles watching. Jimmy Kemp. Austin Kemp. Let me see if I can scroll this.
How can they both be watching? They're in the same house.
Two phones. Cat's watching. Robert Davis. Al wanted to know, let's see if I can find his comment. What do you think about the proposed Florida permitless carry law? I think we talked about that last week. But anyway.
Don't
Yeah,
get me
we've talked
going.
about it before. We know what Mike's opinion on it. Everybody knows my opinion. Martin, you been following that at all? You have any opinion or idea what's going on with the open carry or the permitless carry bill?
I mean, what's the gist? I mean, we're talking about it being. I don't know. I mean, you're the attorneys. You followed
Right.
this in great detail over your whole lives, but I don't know where it says in the Constitution I need a piece of paper from anyone to do anything.
Boom.
I mean,
There you go.
really?
Boom's your uncle.
I mean, you know, I
Minnesota.
don't.
That's correct.
That. I mean, you know, it says I have the right to bear arms. It doesn't say if a government stamps it and assuming I don't yell at my wife or assume that I paid my taxes. It doesn't say anything about that. And if they want to, you have a constitutional convention and Bob's your uncle. But I don't think the American people really want modern day politicians changing what is essentially a divine text. It's not a perfect thing, our Constitution. We should have term limits for Congress by way of example, but it's way better than anything that we could conceive now, because what would a Constitution look like now? It would be, well, you mustn't say this, you mustn't say that. If
That's
you
right.
think this, I mean, you know, it would be so, it wouldn't be, you know, a couple of pages long, would it? It would be, you know, 10,000 pages long, like our
Right.
tax.
It'd be 1,000 rights. You have a right to change your gender. You have a right to be called whatever you want to be called. You have a right to not be insulted. You have a right to be on TikTok without interfering. Yeah, unless you're a conservative, then you can't be on TikTok without interference. Yeah, it would be a freaking 1,000-page document.
And the biggest lie of all, that you're entitled to anything.
Right.
Because you're not. You're entitled to the air in your lungs. You're entitled to freedom. But anything beyond that is arguably on you, and that's the sea change. But you know, with regard to, you know, I just don't have any time for any gun control of any sort. For a start, we all know that there's no such thing. By definition, laws are there to be broken, and those people with malice in mind will always do that. But for law-abiding people, creating it, making it so you're going to jump through hoops. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in New York and or any of these places where law-abiding people can't really protect themselves. That makes you terribly, terribly vulnerable. And how is that the right of government to tell me within my own property what I can and can't do? And sure, the minute I get out there and do something egregious, then the same rules apply to me as anybody else. But the idea that I should apply for a permit, you know, I mean, I always find these rules about silencers and these other different types of things, the concealed weapon thing. That's man-made. That isn't in the Constitution. There's no, and everybody always says, well, it's common sense. I think common sense is something that's largely forgotten in this country, and it's not that common.
Common sense isn't very common.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, it's not.
Marie Misat's on. Rick O'Donnell's
What up, Doc?
on.
What up, Rick?
Well, that's a perfect answer, and I know you probably came to most of that conclusion on your own, but I'll take a little credit for your Second Amendment.
Oh no,
education.
He's always trying to take
on
credit.
that. Of course, I'll take credit. I'll take credit. Yeah, no, that's the perfect answer. It says shall not be infringed, period. There is no comma that says unless I pay the government this or I fill out this application or Nancy Pelosi says I can. It's a period. That being said, as Mike always emphasizes, and we said earlier, if you're going to exercise your right, you should exercise it responsibly, and you should get your training. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, nobody wants just, you know, idiots going around out there and buying guns and waving them in the air and shooting them on Halloween or Christmas or whatever. So everybody should get their training and their knowledge and stuff like that. But it shouldn't be a requirement or the
Here's what I
government
witnessed today.
Not in the,
This is what I witnessed today.
Oh yeah.
Guy on the range with a lady. He's teaching her. They start talking. She takes the gun with her finger on the trigger and puts it behind his back. So she turns, she's shooting, and he talks to her, and she turns like this, and now she literally has a gun pointed at him with her finger on the trigger.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I go out there, there are people in the viewing area, they look, they were in shock. I'm like, stop, don't go out there. And I go out there and I say, all right, you need to put the gun down. I need to talk to you guys out here. And I tell them that is probably the most dangerous thing that I have seen in the 18 years I've worked there. Well, it's actually the second, but I wanted to make my point. So I'm like, if you're not on your sights, if you're not pointing down range, the gun's got to stay down range. If you come off your sight, take your finger off, the gun should not go behind someone. You shouldn't be pointing it at them, blah, blah, blah. And the guy looks at me and goes, I was in the Army.
Oh God.
And first of all, I'm thinking, that was probably 50 years ago, right? And I go, you were in the Army, and you still allowed this to happen.
That's even worse, right?
Like,
yeah, that makes it worse.
He's like, well, I didn't
better.
notice. I'm like, and that's my point.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
Just tap him or whatever.
But you
Split his wig.
You would have had to clean up the blood. You wouldn't want to do that.
Oh, I don't have to clean up the big blood. It's just a little blood I got to clean up.
You got to clean up the spatter, but not the pools. I get it.
But Jeff always told me, and everybody responsibly has made that point, and it's a critical one. 101 on day one is the lethality of it, and those basic lessons. Aim at things, pull it, at things that you mean to kill. That's important, and it's important that the instructors are firm. I don't know if we're necessarily sure that this woman didn't know what she was doing, but assume that she was just there. That's a terribly important thing. I'm not sure I would be against kids in school. We don't teach them much. Couldn't we teach them how to handle a gun, even if they don't necessarily?
Yeah, they used to.
I know a school that does.
Yep. They used to have weapons classes. We used to have a shooting. I was on the shooting team when I was in JROTC in high school. The shooting range was underneath the football stadium, but now you can't have anything like that at school. It's like everything else. They've taken that stuff out of school. The Eddie the Eagle program through the NRA is a great program to teach young kids about firearms. These liberal schools aren't going to let them come into the school and put the NRA banner up and have the NRA mascot go and teach all these kids. So it's like everything else. They'll teach them about how to change their gender, but not how to handle a firearm.
I know where you're going to be able to get it in a couple months.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why we need more of those facilities.
In Florida, it's important. I think that every kid should, certainly any kid that lives in a home that has a gun, but arguably any kid, you don't put your finger in a light socket, and there are certain things you learn how to drive. I don't know. They give them basic sex ed. I think they give them more than that these days.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But
I know one school that doesn't. They made it blatantly clear it's not their job.
It is not their job.
They gave the parents a lecture on how to give the speech to their kids. Yeah. It's like, it's not our job to teach your kids about sex.
That's right.
Well, don't stop me on.
Right. Yeah. Well, and so, right. The good news is I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I guess the good news is it's going to make Mike angry, but I think the permitless carry is going to go through. They tried to add an open carry amendment to it, which would even further annoy Mike, but that actually got shot down and thrown out because the person who drafted it, there was like a legality or technical reason or something, so that got thrown out. So it looks like if we get anything, it's going to be permitless carry. So we'll see if that gets through. You'll still be able to get your concealed carry permit in case you want to use it for reciprocity and travel, and it allows you to skip the 3-day waiting period if you have your permit. Otherwise, you still got to wait. You still got to wait those 3 days. So there's still some benefits to having that, but we'll see how that goes.
I'm not sure that I'm against day waiting periods for guns. I think, sure, if you've got your concealed permit and you've gone through the classes and you understand the importance of it, but I do still get the idea of somebody turning up upset at a gun shop and having 3 days to. So
Yeah,
I'm
but
not.
if you get your permit, then you're not angry.
Well, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. If
Right.
you've got your permit, okay with it. You're a responsible gun owner by definition. I'm just saying
Yeah.
is that you're going to go permitless. I'm not sure that you should be able to go there and just like getting a soda in McDonald's. I'm not sure you should be able to go in there and fill your boots while you're upset with your neighbor or your wife.
Yeah, that's every day though. But
I'm
you
not
know what they
angry.
say
I got
about,
a license.
well, that's like that old joke that alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. It sounds like a convenience store that we should have in Florida, not a
Yeah,
government
it's a
agency.
party, not an agency.
It's not a bad idea. It shouldn't. None of it should be regulated by the government. It should be regulated by what we talked about: common sense and
Yeah.
people's ability to behave. Because I don't know that there are any laws that you can really enforce once people lose their minds. People will do what they're going to do, and all you've got is sanctions for the fact.
I'm
It's
all
true.
about stiffer penalties.
Right.
Like, here's the deal. Like, if you want to go permitless carry or whatever, I am all about it. But if you do something stupid, you get your ass slapped. I mean, that's it.
The
Like, I'm
gun
not
laws
against
here.
the Second Amendment or the Constitution or freedom and anything like that. I'm against idiots. I'm anti-idiot, right? And I think idiots should be punched in the friggin' face for doing idiotic stuff. And that should be a law. Be like, you're doing idiotic stuff, wham!
Like Saudi
That's all I'm
Arabia.
saying, but they won't write that law.
Yeah.
I don't
need to run
disagree.
again and go on the, like, saying, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run, and when I win, I'm going to make it so all idiots get punched in the face. I'm like, you think you had my vote before? You really
got Mike's
my
vote.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, there are thousands of votes in violence. There's no question. And in sanctions. I'll never get elected to anything. Because I'm too contrary. I actually just recently went independent from being a Republican, and that's not because I've become more moderate. Far from it. It's just that the idea that it's a big tent and we all fit under it. That's just not true. The fact is that the Republican Party represents some people, but it doesn't represent all people. And most people, whether a Democrat or Republican, aren't represented by either party.
They're losing.
You're here.
They're losing people.
So I got a clip. I want you guys to watch.
Oh,
Carrie,
here
if
we
you can
go.
pull up the first one. It's a clip I want you to watch, and I want to get your uniquely political insight on this clip, Martin.
An actual clip, not a magazine.
Oh, yeah, it's not a magazine, it's a clip.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, I shouldn't be laughing. This is yes. It'd better if he slipped backwards.
And then takes that little hop at the end.
It's a lot better salute than Bill Clinton, though. That's all I'm going to say.
Well,
All right, Martin.
I mean,
What's your in-depth political analysis of that clip?
the clip is funny. It looks like it's been doctored or sped up, but of course, the saddest and most tragic thing is you don't need to. The joke is on America. I mean, it's bizarre. You go back to what a piece of work Biden is, and notwithstanding his dementia and obvious cognitive issues today. Look at his whole life. When his wife was killed in that crash, first thing he did was decide to continue to run for Congress, and subsequently. Everything that he's done, and this is an amazing thing about politics in this country, a substantial bulk of Congress have never had a job and yet tell us how to live our lives. And I don't really understand them, and I do because they're crooks. But how is Joe got millions of dollars? We know what a congressman makes. We know what a senator makes. We know what a vice president makes. And we know that you don't make all that extra money from books or personal appearances. But we also know that they make it from kickbacks and deals and extended through their family.
Insider trading.
But the biggest mystery is they want to spend time on worrying about whether Trump did some kind of electoral, funding issue there over 130 grand to whatever she was, a porn star, Stormy Daniels. But there's a much bigger crime that's been going on in this country ever since the Biden crime family got exposed for their links to China, who are our mortal enemy. And the obsession with the media about Trump and what he is and what he isn't, and I don't disagree with everything that they say about him, but when it comes down to it, Biden is an absolute danger to this country, and he's a pathological crook. Now, I don't have any sympathy for his, because the arrogance, why would you take on the presidency? And of course, it doesn't stop there. It stops with all the people that are enabling him. Because it's good to have Joe there, because I presume he doesn't decide anything. I presume there are a bunch of people in there, whether it's Obama pulling the strings or whether it's Soros. You can be sure it's not Joe scratching his head and coming up with these ideas. And he's laughable. I mean, obviously there's the comedic thing there about, I fall down sometimes. I don't fall down 3 times in a row unless I was drunk. But it's so funny and it's so comedic and it's so Saturday Night Live, and yet when was the last time they really poked fun at Joe Biden on any of those shows? When does Colbert turn around and start talking about diaper and stuff? Never.
They supported him. They would make them look like assholes.
Oh, they are.
You then go back. We know, Obama, the mansions that he lives in, the way that he lives, the way that he was created, the puppet, arguably, that he is too. And then the biggest one of modern times, the Clinton crime family. 25 times on Epstein's jet, but he's been to his island. I mean, it's a tragedy that we've had one president after another from the Democrats that's been not just rotten by policy, but rotten by character. I mean, absolutely rotten to the core. Bill Clinton didn't believe in anything other than enriching himself and grabbing the arse of any woman that came across his viewpoint. Obama was a flat-out traitor to this country. And, it's like
treasonous bitch.
They talk about, this argument is over, whether it's climate change. The same thing with the birth certificate. Everyone kept saying, well, that's over now. He definitely was born here. I'm not convinced. I'm absolutely not convinced. I know what his father was. And his father was an absolute militant communist from another country. And how we managed to get 2 terms of that, I don't know. And history will show that Affordable Care Act is an absolute travesty, travesty. And we're still being raped in this country by pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, and banks, while simultaneously taxing people to into oblivion. And I mean, I don't know how this story ends. Like I said, I'm 57, so the story will go on long after I am. But I saw that run on the bank the other day there on the West Coast, and banks only have to have 7% of the deposits as liquid assets. I think that's something that most people don't realize. If more than 7% of money gets withdrawn, most banks wouldn't have it. No bank has more than about 12%. So that means 7 out of the $8. Now, it doesn't matter. All the time there's confidence in the system, but why would you have confidence in the system when you know what's going on? This cryptocurrency fake nonsense that's out there, and it all revolves back to the fact that the lie is only any good if it's a really big one. And the biggest lie is that Joe Biden is a legitimate president and an appropriate president for the United States, because he absolutely isn't. He's a buffoon.
You're going to get any argument out of us.
No, I figured that you wouldn't push back on that, but
no,
and that's not a new situation. But doesn't it madden you? Doesn't it really piss you off? Because it pisses me off. I mean, I can't think with 330 million people in this country, we can't find a better president than that. It's an embarrassment, notwithstanding the fact that no industry would
I
hire
can
somebody.
find a better president in a McDonald's bathroom.
No question.
We
I
need
go to
330 million people.
I go to Dunkin' Donuts down the street here every day, and most of the girls there are much brighter than he is, much brighter.
And none of them are tripped going in and out.
And you get a strawberry donut on the way out. I can't beat that. I mean, it's funny until the rubber hits the road, and we've had this lie now. You're at $31 trillion, 240 grand for every family in this country in terms of debt. Interest rates racking up. People don't understand necessarily that means that the cost of servicing a national debt is going up. And where are they going to come to? They're going to come to you and me, and they're going to tell you to pony up. And pony up for what? So that they continue to live the way that they're living and look down on us, because they do. You've only got to meet. I've met. I know Jeff has. I've met most of the local mob, whether it be Left Turn, Vern Buchanan, or whatever else. And forget the fact that, he whooped my butt. He whooped my butt because he had an awful lot more money and because I acted like an ass during the campaign. He's never done anything for his constituents. And I only know about Vern Buchanan. I suspect if he looked at the other 430 odd in Congress, the same would apply on both sides of the aisle. And that's been going on. And people say this forever, well, they don't do anything. And everyone laughs about it, but it's not funny. We used to send people back, 230 years ago to, represent each of our districts, and they'd go there for a few weeks, and then they'd go back and they'd tell everybody what they did, and everybody would bitch and moan about having to send them anything. And then we get Woodrow Wilson with the 16th Amendment starting off at 2% and ending the First World War at 70%. FDR comes in and institutes socialism through the back door, stealing a third term, which was unconstitutional. And people said, well, it's circumstances and whatever else. And that is what took us to where we get. We didn't get here in a minute. We got here over 100 years. Arguably, in my view, it started with Wilson, went on there, certainly accelerated with FDR. And look at other Democrat presidents that we've had. What a gangster John Kennedy was. Everyone talks about them like they're a deity. They're a crime family by definition. And again,
he was a gangster.
Absolute gangster. Lyndon Johnson, when his wife made all that money out of the helicopter company, I think it was it Bell? I forget which one it was. She had all the Ladybird. She had all those shares in it, and Vietnam did very, very well for them. Arguably a useless war for us. 50 odd thousand.
Nobody can invest like Paul Pelosi. That is an investing motherfucker right there.
But why aren't they in prison?
Like I need to get with his
because all their other friends are investing as well.
Well, isn't that one of the biggest scandals? And it's kind of chilling. I put that video on just before the election last August, after Trump got raided at Mar-a-Lago, and tongue in cheek, I said, I wish they'd come to my house because they'd have gone home, the FBI, because they'd have gone home in a body bag. And it got lots of views. It got in the newspaper, and it was tongue in cheek. I didn't necessarily, wasn't threatening to kill a federal agent or anybody. I was just making the point that, searching and seizing and being that aggressive wasn't really very American. But the chilling part, and to my point, is that even I thought about it and thought, oh, maybe I'll get a knock on the door from the feds. I don't want that, and I shouldn't think. I should be able to say exactly whatever I want. Speech is not conduct. I mean, it's not an inducement to conduct. That nonsense on January the 6th, Trump made people do anything. I was there on January the 6th, and Trump didn't make anybody that I knew of do anything.
Make anybody do shit.
And apart from anything else, as far as I can tell.
For the record, nobody else here was there.
No.
Oh, really?
Officially, for the record, nobody else on this stream was in January 6th.
But there's a funny thing. There's a funny thing, isn't it? That people actually became chilled. 900 prosecutions so far. I was there that day. It was freezing cold. People were very patient. None of our cell phones worked. There was all this idea that, we'd had our cell phones blocked. I don't know what the truth of that was, but for hours, we were literally without any information standing. We were right back by the monument. It was a big crowd. They never really talked about that. And then by the time I managed to get through, down to the Capitol there. I wasn't really sure what was Capitol grounds and what weren't. I mean, I didn't go inside because
Well, just follow the people telling you where to go. That's how you'll know. Just follow the cops. They'll tell you where the
it was a
Capitol ground. They'll tell you where the Capitol grounds are. This way, sir. They'll unlock the doors for you. You'll be good to go.
But it was a perfectly legitimate thing. If you remember the Women's March after Trump won, and the whole pink
Nasty
pussy thing,
bitches.
no one complained about that. No one complained about taking over the downtown of every city in America during the summer of 2020, and with the black kneeling down, and even in Sarasota, the deputy chief of police there went and took a knee with them because he was scared. He was scared of not of the crowd. He was scared of the reaction of being cancelled. And again, it's back to the original point there that that's the direction that we're pushing into. That's the freedom that's being impacted on it. And liberals will say, well, you can't say that. You might influence something. But they can say their shit all day long. And that's not the thing. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, as the old joke goes, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all. And that is what we're up against. And as mature adults, obviously our responsibility is to make sure that younger people that have been indoctrinated in our education system recognize the folly of these lies, because these lies will end badly for everybody. This idea that the government can look after you forever and that everybody's entitled to a happy ending. No, you participate in it. You don't get a trophy for just turning up. You actively join.
Yeah, you're only entitled to a happy ending if you pay the extra $20.
That's it.
On the North Trail, I know. Is it still $20, Jeff?
I don't know. How would I know? I don't know.
I don't even know what you people are talking about.
Yeah, Mike has no idea what we're talking about.
Jackson, I assume there'd been some inflation since you were young.
Well, that's true. Ever since Joe Biden took over, it probably is more than $20. That's a good.
It's probably 300.
God knows. God knows.
Are
there any comments, Jules, or questions, or anybody have any questions for Martin, or they want to make any comments on what we're saying?
I only had one question. That was the one about the open carry.
Oh, the permitless carry. Yeah, we already took care of that. That's the same question. Nobody wants to know about marijuana and concealed carry permits?
Oh,
they want to know about going to the fair.
Yeah.
Going to the fair? Yeah. I got that question last week, and I went to the fair, and it was perfectly fine, as always.
Maria said that we should be teaching life skills in school. I agree with that. We had home ec and shop and all kinds of stuff when I was a kid. They don't do that anymore.
Yes, I know one school they do it at.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Do it everywhere.
Well, isn't that the case, though? I mean, as an employer for years, I was always stunned. I left school at 16 because, I wasn't that bright, and because I went to be a professional soccer player, and they take you right out of high school. But notwithstanding that, and it's difficult to tell, obviously it's 40 years ago, but I'm just saying, notwithstanding that, and my lack of formal education, when I have people turn up to interview with me, all with college degrees, often with masters, sometimes even with doctorates, and I'm stunned at just how ignorant they are about most things. I mean, just bizarrely so. And basic life skills. You said about home economics. Why not teach someone how to feed themselves? Why not teach somebody not so much about what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat, because I suspect people will do what they want to do, but to the point of it's amazing to me how many kids couldn't make me a cup of tea. And the way to my heart is to make me a decent bloody cup of tea.
Hold on now. We could probably make you a cup of coffee. You remember where you're at. We could probably get you a nice cup of coffee, but nobody over here knows how the hell to make you a nice cup of tea.
I just got
with our education.
2 weeks ago. I got a friggin' teapot so I can
That's
have tea at
because
night.
we actually dumped all the tea in the harbor and said, take your tea back across the pond because we're drinking coffee. So
Yeah, Freudian slip. But
Hey, Martin,
I-
Maria wants to know if you're going to run again.
I mean, common sense and logic says no. I said to someone the other day, I said, never again until the next time. And that's what every politician, anybody, if they're telling the truth, I'm not really a politician because you'd have to win to be that, but, every aspiring politician, what do? I mean, they all say never again when they lose. And then a few months pass and the election season kicks in. Um, honestly, if nobody runs against Vern Buchanan, and I suspect they won't because he's probably an immovable object, I think there's a conversation to be had. I think that it's fair enough, and to ask why, because by then he'll have been in for 18 years, and the only thing he's ever passed apart from wind is an animal rights bill. And I love animals, but that's not representing the people of 16. In Manatee County, Vern Buchanan wouldn't go out to, east of 75 if it wasn't there with all his lackeys. What you tell me what a guy that lives in a 12,000-foot mansion on Longboat Key has in common with somebody that lives in Parish? Absolutely nothing, and wouldn't have any means of communicating with him. And if you ever do get to meet Vern, one of the most striking things about him, how incredibly boring he is. He's got nothing to say. Nothing. It's a complete, but he's also got no real beliefs. The only belief that Vern Buchanan has, and I suspect a lot of them have, is in himself and this sense that he's important. And really, he's no more important than a sheep coming through a pen because that's all he's there for. He thought he was going to be the head of the Ways and Means Committee, made that a part of his campaign, and because he got his ass handed on that, which made me laugh. But I think people deserve better. I think they deserve better than me. But they deserve somebody with a little bit of fire in their stomach. I like Greg Stubbe, but
My guy.
He's good.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I like Greg. I mean, he loves himself a little bit more than he should, perhaps, but I like him. Narcissus is alive and there with him, but he's actually got, at least he appears to have, some beliefs and a little bit of passion. And I just don't think that people with hundreds of millions of dollars and living in mansions and flying in private jets really have a clue. And they always talk about they came up the hard way, but that was like 1,000 years ago. What have you done for me lately? And I would like to see Tommy Gregory run for Congress. He's a solid guy, very solid guy. I could certainly get behind someone like Tommy, but I think most politicians take a factor of whether they're likely to win, and beating an incumbent is very, very difficult. I can beat myself on my own anyway, but we give him a rough
happy endings again. Why do we keep talking about happy endings?
You don't need the $20.
Right.
Well, there you go.
It's not that type of show.
Something weird has happened. Kat says that every time she puts a like in the comments, a mad face comes up. So she said something's weird happening.
Algorithms.
Yep.
They could.
No. I don't know. Those are the algorithms. They're switching us all to dislikes. Bastards.
Yeah.
Well, it's about those algorithms. One of the things that I noticed, and they talk about conspiracies. I had a big Facebook page which got shut down on Facebook, not because of what I wrote, but because of some security issue, and I still haven't got it back a year later, and I'm suing the company that did it, and I believe that they did it deliberately. But to the point, one of the things that I found out about among many with regard to social media is if you include or incorporate those emojis that show anger or distaste, they just drop it down to the bottom of the thing, and we shouldn't really care. But the truth is, it's very, very hard to get your voice out there unless it's woke. And I don't know what the answer to that is I just, it doesn't matter to me whether I ever win anything or whatever else. I would strongly encourage more people to have a passion about it. You know, a lot of people say to me politics is boring, and politicians are boring, but
Right.
politics and the things that affect every one of us every day, that's not boring. And it's basically giving up on life if you say, well, I'll let the great and the good decide for me. What do you end up with? You end up with that arse hat falling up the stairs of the plane. And he's the top of. Can you imagine? You know, you got that George Santos who got elected there in New York, who's obviously a maniac. You've got, you know, people like Omar that should be, you know, frankly in Guantanamo, not in Congress. And you've got
Truth.
blatant socialists like, and the hate for America and the hate for
Yep.
a tremendous things that are about America that emanates from the Democrat Party. You know, someone said to me during the campaign, would I work with Democrats? I said, no. The only time I cross the aisle is to yell at them and to shut the hell. Why would I? You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's like making pals with the local crack dealer. No. These people are on the wrong path. And it takes a certain amount of courage. And this cancel thing is real. Don't be under any illusions. I still get, because I won't change my cell phone number because I won't give in to it. I still get several hate calls every single day from all over the country.
Well, that's because you made your cell phone number your freaking campaign phone number. What the hell, dude? I could have told you that wasn't a good idea.
Well, yeah, a lot of people did, and you know what? I said that. Arguably, you're right. There's no question, but why shouldn't people have the ability to pick up the phone and call someone?
I get the concept. You want to be able to call directly to the person and not get their runaround from the people at the campaign desk. I get the concept.
It's not marketing. I'm saying is that the broader point. Yes, I mean I hear what you're saying, and you try and get Vern Buchanan on the phone, and you come back to me in a year and you tell me how you got on because you'll never get hold of him,
right?
Unless you're holding a huge check. Or trying to pull his idiot son up with him, James Buchanan. But the next congressman, I don't think so. But the joke is on us. The joke is on us, and the only quality that I bring is that I'm that stupid that I'll keep on, even in the face of being rejected by society. It's not really society, is it? Let's be fair. Why would I care what the majority of Democrats think? I couldn't care less. I don't care what the moderate Republicans think, because they're almost worse, because they're trying to sell us a bill of goods, which is, you know, just as bad, you know, sort of Democrat light. And there's no such thing. It's like, you know, I often say you can't get a little bit pregnant. And so joking around the subject, saying, well, but you can't. And
needs to wrap it up.
We need to get out.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Well, the sad part is it would all be hilarious if it wasn't so damn scary, because the implications that could come from it. I mean, we can laugh all we want about the president and all this other kind of stuff and call him names and make fun of his age or whatever. But the fact of the matter is the guy's in charge of the freaking country. And so we can laugh about it all we want if it wasn't so damn scary. So
it's frightening. We need to say
all right. Well, look, thank you, Martin, for coming on. It's been a great show. We're going to have to put you into the regular rotation if you're open to it, and maybe bring you back more often.
Yeah.
Happy to. I'm you know, a bored, lonely, middle-aged, failed politician. I've got nothing better to do. So,
especially if you can bring over some of those subscribers, because I'm certain that algorithm is why I can't crack the 1,000 mark. I'm going to blame it on YouTube and Zuckerberg.
It's a mystery to me too, but the number of views is about the titling, and but we can talk about that. But I'd be happy to join you guys anytime. No worries.
Good
Great.
deal.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for showing up, Martin. Hi, thank you, sir. So, thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe and share. Musings with MGL is the YouTube channel. Front Sight Press is the Facebook channel. Every Thursday around 8-ish. fight the power by liking and subscribing and getting our numbers up. It's the only way to get people to hear our voices.
That's it.
Mike, last words?
Peace.
All right, I'm gonna
That's
get
my
us
last.
out of here. I got one more clip. I want to get us out of here on Roll It, Carrie.
Most powerful man in the world.
I know it's scary, but it's too damn funny not to have a laugh at it. Sometimes you just gotta laugh. That's all you can do sometimes.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next week.
Bye, guys.